Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting live stream. Before we dive in, I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to the very first official sponsor of my channel, Merlin. Merlin changed the game for how I manage my crypto portfolio, so this exclusive partnership makes a whole lot of sense. Merlin offers advanced tools for wealth preservation, including exit strategies. Their platform is plugged into the world's leading exchanges, so you can get one clear snapshot of your crypto holdings. And I personally use Merlin to optimize my exit strategy to maximize my returns. Merlin empowers me to make informed decisions and plan effectively for both bull and bear markets. Links to Merlin are in the description below. Big thanks to the team for their support. And thank you all for tuning in today. Let's jump into the discussion and explore the latest trends and insights in the world of blockchain. Head on a swivel, ladies and gentlemen.
3, 2, 1, lift off.
When those towers came down, I had worked in construction with thermite, and I knew those towers were brought down by controlled demolition. The cabal is doing this. If you don't understand that there's a global, one world government that's manipulating all the governments of the world, you simply won't understand what's going on.
Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Today's live stream is going to be spicy. And thank you, Merlin, for sponsoring this production in today's live stream. I'll be playing a very interesting presentation by Larry Ballard on stage at the Quantum Summit in Cape Canaveral. Larry Ballard is a patriot. Let me switch over and bring him on screen so you guys know who I'm talking about here. There we go. So Larry Ballard is a patriot and author with a profound near-death experience. Larry shares his insights shaped by his diverse career path from ironworking during 9/11 to Monsanto Chemical, where he learned about GMOs and the hidden agenda behind the elite's climate change narrative. Larry also spent time in China and witnessed firsthand how the U.S. is losing international trade deals and the resulting economic impact. His a journey through the sectors like atomic energy and European corporate landscapes puts Larry right over the target. As a real estate broker, he also foresaw the 2008 financial crisis. So please make note that Larry's mission is to awaken the world's truths about sovereignty, globalism, and freedom. I'm going to play Larry's entire presentation on stage at the Quantum Summit. I appreciate you all tuning in. And get some popcorn while you're at it. Thanks for tuning in.
Probably the least known person here. I died in '68. I was unconscious in a ditch for 4 hours after the result of a motorcycle accident. God came to me and said, took my spirit to heaven for 4 hours, gave me a download the likes of which you can't believe. He said, here's your life in a nutshell. You're going to prepare your entire life. And if this was a race, you're not going to get up to the queue until the last second. You're going to get the baton and you're going to take it across the finish line, because the message I'm giving you is so big and contains so much truth that people won't be ready to listen until they're in an absolute destitute position. We're there now. He told me your hair will be salt and pepper and you will be quite old before this happens. So I've been preparing for this for 56 years. He had me read the Bible, he had me read the Quran, he had me travel to nations all over the world at strategic points in time. For example, I was in Tiananmen Square 2 days before that massacre. I was in Canada working for Atomic Energy of Canada, learning about that and about socialized medicine. When those towers came down, I had worked in construction with thermite, and I knew those towers were brought down by controlled demolition. I was in Europe working for a French firm early on when they were forming the European Union, and I knew what it was. I knew it was the 10-nation coalition that was going to be the beast system. I worked for a whole host of companies. Every one, God said, I'll change jobs every 3 years, was to put me in a strategic position. I worked for Monsanto Chemical Company. Anybody got an idea why God put me there? I worked in the medical field. Anybody got an idea where God put me there? I was a real estate agent. Oh, maybe I know about what happened with that financial collapse in '08 and '29 and so on and so forth. So with that, here we're going to go, the big picture. Let's go to the next slide. If you don't know this, you're going to get fooled. If you look at what they're trying to do to us today, you can't look at Ukraine, you can't look at China, you can't look at Russia, you can't look at America, and you can't say those are sovereign nations. None of them are sovereign. You can't say they're doing this. You have to say the cabal is doing this. If you don't understand that there's a global, one world government that's manipulating all the governments of the world, you simply won't understand what's going on. So with that, let's go to the next slide. You also need to understand this. Sun Tzu, President Trump's favorite author, my favorite author, Jericho's favorite author. Why? Because you have to know the mind of the enemy if you're going to win the war. You have to be able to anticipate what he's going to say and do before he even does. So here's the big picture, and this confuses people because every one of those bullet points represents a 180-degree change in the direction of the world. So they started out with us under the British system, and the Vatican and the British and the monarchies of Europe controlled the world for over 300 years, and they controlled about 75% of the world's land, 75% of the world's wealth. Then they said, well, we've got to have a police force. So they made America the #1 leading superpower of the world, so we could dominate the world with our army and with what? Our money. Then they said, those Americans, they're getting too powerful. We've got to cede power to China. So along comes Jimmy Carter, and the process begins, and they cede power to China. And what were they doing? A total change in what we call the political system. They wanted to create a super one-world capitalist communist economy. The innovation of capitalism, the control of communism. So where are we today? We're on death ground. We're at the final battle where they're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at us. And it's another 180-degree reversal. So what's happening now? We see BRICS. We see what's happening with deglobalization and de-dollarization. And what they're doing is saying now, we have to collapse the entire global financial system. We have to throw so much shit at people that they're going to be willing to do anything we tell them to do. We have to understand that that's their game plan, and it's not going to win. Basically, what Sun Tzu says is an enemy's greatest strength is also his greatest weakness. So what's their greatest strength? The money and their lies. So what do we take away from them? Their money and their lies. The truth will set us free. The financial system will take away their power. They'll no longer be able to control all the 7 spheres of influence. Your kids will get a fair education. You'll get honest politicians. The corrupt corporations will fall. All those people who gave us the shot are going someplace that you're not going to want to go. So at any rate, that's the big picture. I'm just trying to paint this so you can get your head around all the lies and all the deception. Next slide. And by the way, somebody please shout out to me when I got 10 minutes and when I got 5 minutes. I have a lot of stuff. They're going to lose. Let's go to the next slide. All right, I just want this to sink in for you to understand the weight of those handcuffs that you have on you. Over in the far left, your far left, you've got your paycheck. And then guess what? They take what? Income tax, capital gains, Social Security, property tax, sales tax, usage tax, inheritance tax, excise tax, mortgage tax, and a whole host of others. And what you end up with is this little bitty pie over here. We are in debt slavery. They control us from cradle to grave. And you all know about the corporation that was formed in 1781 and what that was about. We were, at that time, a republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. We were not a democracy. We were a republic. At that point, we not only became a democracy, but we came under a corporation. And what is the charter of a corporation? It's not a constitution, it's charter. We have but one obligation, and that obligation is to give the maximum amount of return to our investors, who are who? The global financial elite. And how do they do that? They tax us into oblivion. So that's the system we're under. That's the system that's going to break, and those chains are going away. Next slide. Mike, this is right up your alley. Spiritual awakening. And I basically want to give you the roles of how these things come down. So basically, I'm hearing the sound of victory, the sound of a multitude of God's army who are preparing for a great awakening. So I'm grounded in the Bible. That was the first thing God told me how to do. Read the Bible, read the Quran from cover to cover. I believe God's had this plan from the day one. I follow a number of prophets. Probably the one that I love the most is Ken Clement. That's his prophet. Now look down below. Here's confirmation of what Ken Clement was saying. They've pushed us too far. And that started with COVID. We're waking up. We're now an army to be reckoned with. And when we wake up, all we have to do is stand up. And one of the other people was saying, how do we win? I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm an historian. That's what God said. You have to, the Bible is 70% history. Know that history, know geopolitical politics, know that history, and you will be able to tell a story that people will not be able to call conspiracy theory. So what has happened? Basically, they have had us in slavery. We're waking up, and with that, we're getting the power. In the enemy's playbook, you're going to see some slides in a minute. They're going to show you the mistake they made. They did the same tactic over and over and over again. And think of it as a football game. If you got a vastly inferior team, but they get the playbook of the opponents, they're probably going to win. I'm going to give you the enemy's playbook in just a minute. We've got everything we need to know. And then I'm going to go back to something somebody else said. Here's how we win. We fought the Revolutionary War, and we thought we won. We fought it because we wanted to get out from King George III's central banking system. But yet, before Washington was out of office, we were bankrupt, and we were in it. And what was the formula? This was alluded to earlier. What they found before America was ever founded was that in the 100-Year War between England and Britain, England went bankrupt. They borrowed money from the Rothschilds under the condition, I'll loan you all the money you want, but you've got to let me print your money for perpetuity. And so here's what they did. That was their linchpin. I go from tipping point to tipping point to tipping point. So they knew that if they could keep the world constantly in a state of war, they could bankrupt nation after nation after nation after nation and bring each and every one of them into the central banking system and take their sovereignty. That's what they've done to us. There's not a sovereign nation in the world, but that's going to change real soon. So basically, the financial system is collapsing, and when it does, here's what happens. They can't pay to have people killed. They can't pay to black people. They can't give millions and millions of dollars to our politicians. Their power's gone. It's gone. And while we were fighting that war only to come out the back end and still be in slavery, there was a nation that didn't fire one shot and got its freedom. That's India. And what happened? They had a leader. Just like we have a leader named Donald Trump, they had Gandhi. And Gandhi was a spiritual leader, and he was a lawyer. And he sat down and crossed his legs and refused to eat and said, people, follow me. Do not participate in their economic system. Have rolling strikes. Do not participate. We will break them financially, and we will get our freedom. And sure enough, without firing a single shot, England, the crown jewel of the global elite, got its freedom. We can do the same thing, folks, with what's coming. We can stand up as an army of billions of people against a couple of million and say, to heck with you. We win, you lose, game over, it's done. All right, go on, next slide. This is their game plan. Now, what I've done is given you a cheat sheet, because I can't go over all this. I'll be here all day. I put in yellow some of the more important things that we're going to highlight. So basically, you start with wars. That's how they get their power, is with war. Then they go into false flags and pit us against one another and take us into war and bankrupt us. And let's go on. Then they give us a central bank, and then they give us fiat currency, which they can do what? They can appreciate, they can depreciate, they can cause financial collapses at will. That's all going away when we go into the quantum system, when we go in XRP, when we go into a system based on commodity, God's currency system. So just look on down there, read those, take a picture, do it on your own. On the other side, a couple of things. They want to end all sovereign nations, which they've done, and they want to have a 10-nation trading bloc. The first was Europe, the European Union. They tried to do it to America under Bush Sr., and it got out and it failed. But they have a list under the UN published of all 10 trading blocs that they want to have. This will come when we get into the book of Revelation, but it's not now. We're in the Bible. We're in Genesis. We're in Abraham's covenant right now. We are where the promise to him was made that he would be the leader of many nations and his seed would be scattered throughout the world. We're the remnant generation, and nothing really significant is going to happen that represents the tribulation until he gets his harvest of souls, and that's all of us out here. Next slide. So basically just a couple of more. Now we're looking at the psychological and spiritual things they do to us. They genetically create a subspecies, and they do that by brainwashing us, and now they're doing it by genetics. So basically they want us to be a whole bunch of passive sheeps, which is just what the communists want. They say passivity is the key to our victory. And so they want to divide us, and that's where I say you have to know You cannot look at any individual nation and say, well, why in the world are they doing that? They're not doing it. The global financial elite are doing it. And over the other side, I just want to give you one more to point to. Eventually, I can't read. They eventually want to exterminate all us. Oh, COVID. And that was the thing that started waking us up. Next slide. All right, this is what's coming, folks. There's a new system. God never gambles. There was a system that there's always foreknowledge. He always tells his prophets. He always does something before. So here's what happened. In 34 years following the Civil War, America became the wealthiest nation in the world. And at its centennial and 100-year celebration, it made that announcement. Here's what they did. It's exactly what Donald Trump did. God knew the end before the beginning. He shared it with Donald Trump. What they did is they supplanted England, who had a 300-year head start, and all they did is say, we're going to get our resources. So they built the transcontinental railroad system. We're going to manufacture and innovate. And so what did they do? They put a massive tariff on England. What did Trump do? He did the same thing to China. And that forced what? That forced the American people to innovate because they couldn't afford to buy free trade British goods. And so we were the masters, the creators, the innovators of the Industrial Revolution. And unlike the global cabal, we didn't hoard the money. We didn't hoard the technology. We shared it with the world. And the entire world was being equalized and elevated until, like Michael said, they caused a little thing called World War I because they knew that if things kept going in the direction they were going to go, there was going to be a transcontinental railroad system that connected every continent on this planet except Australia, and the power of the global financial elite to control the world by trade by sea was gone. So basically, you got to just understand the heinousness of what they're willing to do to us. But what we're coming into is a reiteration of that American economic system. We're not going to make cheap products that are going to fall apart in 6 months. We're going to have products that are going to last for a lifetime. We're not going to have a global supply chain that can be controlled by China. It's going to be distributed throughout the world. We're not going to have a fiat currency that can be controlled and manipulated. It's going to be God's currency. And it's going to be based on an economic rail system called XRP. And in real simple terms, here's what it does. Yes, there's a 70-to-1 ratio between gold and silver. But even silver, you can't take it out today and buy a loaf of bread. But so what you have to have, God showed me in 1968 when I had this near-death experience, everything. When the tipping point came, America would be morally collapsed, financially collapsed, and he would bring in a new system that would restore the world. But he had to have a new technology, i.e. quantum computing and XRP, because he was going to his economic system based on commodities. So what XRP does for us, it allows us to take huge quantities of things, a super tanker full of oil, a barge full of grain, 1,000 pounds of gold, and break it down digitally into finitely small pieces so that we can trade anything, real estate, gold, silver, oil, wheat, anything, and it can't be manipulated because it all has intrinsic value. They will not be able to inflate that, to deflate it. The ability to cause purposely intentioned financial collapses is going away. We're going to a system that is going to, just like the American economic system, equalize and elevate the condition of all mankind, bringing peace and prosperity to the world, bringing spiritual enlightenment to the world, bringing us into a situation where his harvest of souls is reaped, and we are the generation that is going to be surviving, taking that remnant position during the millennial reign. But to do that, we have to be morally founded. So that's where we're going in a couple of minutes. Next slide. And when I'm running out of time, somebody tell me. So this is a recap. You guys I'm not going to teach anything. I just want to show you. Basically, everybody who tried to go on a gold-backed system was killed. Silver, Kennedy, killed him. What happened in... They were trying to put a gold-backed system together, backed by gold and by oil. He had to die. The Arab Spring had to die. But remember that slide I showed you where I said every once in a while they put the brakes on and do a 180-degree reversal? That's bricks. because we're at that last point in that earlier slide where now they want to collapse the whole system. So they're allowing BRICS to come in. They're allowing it because they want to, and we need to. This is something we should celebrate. We have to collapse their financial system, take their money away, get the power back, let the whistleblowers come out. That's BRICS. We want that to happen. And then China. I've been in China. Like I said, I was there before Tiananmen Square, just a few days before. I was a real estate broker. So what happened is they had a Ponzi scheme in China on real estate. The real estate market collapsed. What did COVID do to China? It showed that there was a flaw in the global supply chain, and you could wait a year to get a car, to get a phone, to get anything. So now what's happening? The manufacturing and trade is leaving China by the droves. Foxconn, the largest facility in the world with 100,000 people that makes your iPhones, is being broken up into 5 pieces and put in 5 different countries. The world we're going to see is going to make products that'll last forever. We're going to get some 600 patents back. We're going to get the technology that is out there back in our hands. The world is going to change, and we're going to have raw materials on every continent in the world. We're going to have shared technology so that no one company or group of companies can control any market niche. It's going to be equality for the entire world, for all of mankind. That's what's coming, folks. This is what has to happen. Next slide. Here it is in a nutshell. Don't be afraid of this. Don't be afraid of de-dollarization. It's going to scare the holy bejeebies out of you, but it has to happen. Absolutely has to happen, because they will no longer be able to inflate or deflate or cause financial collapses, because we, the police force that control the world through our money, that money's gone. And all the fiat currencies of the world are gone. We're on gold and silver and oil and all kinds of commodities. Next slide. And this is what also is happening. These are the 2 pieces that have to happen to give us freedom. We have to go to deglobalism. And that's what's happening in China. The money stopped rolling in, manufacturing is leaving, and it's going to be distributed evenly around all nations of the world. And most importantly, those nations whose natural resources they have stolen, namely the entire continent of Africa, is going to get totally free funding to develop their infrastructure so they can join the first world. All nations have to be brought into equality and prosperity, and that's coming as well. Next slide. All right, financial restoration. What is it? It's going to be ending of the fiat system and their ability to inflate and deflate, to cause boom-bust cycles, and inability to buy power and influence. So just think of this. You'll be able to turn on a TV and you won't hear the fake news. You'll get the truth. They're going to be forced to tell the truth, or they're going to go out of business. And you're going to be able to take your kids to a school where they're not told they have to go into a bathroom with a boy or a girl of the opposite sex. We're going to get control of every sphere of influence in this world. We're not going to have politicians that are bought and paid for, that are passing laws that are designed to enslave us. All of those systems are going to go on. All of those people who forced that shot on you, those companies are going out of business. And look what happened. This collapse is going to be unlike any collapse we've ever had. The Great Depression was based upon a 62% increase in the supply of money, and a unique thing that had never happened. You could buy stocks with no money down, and our 10% down, and they popped that bubble. What they've done here is infinitely greater. With COVID, they locked the whole world down, and most nations printed during that lockdown as much money as they had printed in 100 years. But America, as the world's reserve currency, we printed as much as we had printed in 200 years. There's not a nation in the world that can absorb any more debt at all. So when this comes down, it's not going to be a controlled collapse where they come back and keep their power and buy things back that they stole. Entire nations and entire governments and entire political systems are going to go under in total financial collapse by the dozens, by the hundreds. And what else is going to happen is blue chip corporations, the more that they're exposed. Look at Disney. They took a hit, and we found out what they're doing and telling to our kids. A few years ago, they had 7 movies that did $1 billion. Last year, they didn't have a 1. Amazon took a hit. Look at what happened with Facebooks. And we've just got a drip and a drip and a drip. What happens when all the whistleblowers come out and all at one time? We find out what they've done with war. We find out what they've done with money. We find out all those things were in that playbook, and we say, oh my God, we can do what India did. We're 7.5 billion strong. They cannot stand against an army of people who refuse to be sheep. We're not going to be sheeple anymore. We're not going to be wolves. We're going to be humanitarians, and we're going to return this world to a godly kingdom. Next slide. And somebody tell me when I'm running out of time. We've covered this one. Next slide. All right, this is what's coming. The whistleblowers, when they lose their money, the whistleblowers are going to come out, and you're going to get a dose of the truth, the likes of which you have never imagined. It's going to shock you. It's going to scare you. But I guarantee you it's the best thing that will ever, ever, ever happen. Next slide. All right. Kim Clement again. This is February 22, April 4th and 28th. He says, a veil has been placed on the U.S. for a season, so faith would increase in darkness and despair, and I did it. There's never a system, an instance in the Bible where people just woke up one day and said, okay, God, I surrender to you. I'm going to do what you want me to do. We got to be driven to our knees. So what we think we've been seeing here is just a movie. This is a veil God put on us to put us to where we were in fear. And in that fear, we would surrender to God, and we would understand, we don't have to fear. We've already won. God already had it all planned before the inception of time. We win, and this tells you that. So now, but down below, he says, I will expose those things that were hidden so the truth can set you free. That's what's coming, folks. That's the truth. The truth will set you free. It's right out of the Bible, and we're going to get out from all the lies and deception of the devil. Next slide. All right. Over there, I bet you recognize some of those people. I'm leading you into an understanding of most of this audience, I think, is probably focused on an economic recovery. I'm going to tell you that that is not the real focus. We have to have an economic recovery, and we will. But we'll lose it immediately if we don't understand this. There's a statue in New York called the Statue of Liberty. It's demonic. There's a statue in Plymouth Rock that depicts these principles called the Plymouth Monument, and almost nobody goes there. Almost nobody knows where it's at. This is the foundation of America. Bible, liberty, morality, education, and law. That's what's coming back. That's what's going to save America. Next slide. All right, this is maybe the most important slide up here, as simple as it is. If we're going to get our freedom, that'll come from the economic financial collapse. But if we don't get out of from under the slavery system that we've been imposed with, every one of you have been poisoned. You have a very poor standard of living, me included, because of the health issues that I have because of how they poison me. There are people in this room, there's one right there, and there's one in the back, that have solutions to how we can decontaminate ourselves. And God promised that when the people came out of Egypt, not a one of them was poor, and not a one of them had bad health. That's coming. We're going to get our health system back. And then the last one is we have to have the three things that constitute any government, any society worth even existing. We have to have spirituality, morality, and we have to be able to have a whole body system. That's what's coming. That's what's going to come to this world. That's the world we're going to be living in a very short period of time, where we're all members of one human race directed by God Almighty himself. Next slide. All right. This is a slide that I did that basically is the whole reason I did this. I did a presentation recently that went somewhat viral, and a guy wrote in and he said, "It's a good presentation, lots of detail." But I was offended. That guy talked about God. And he said that, God and politics went together. Well, I don't look at God as religion. I look at God as spirituality, as the ultimate truth. And I said, I'm not letting that pass. So I created this. And it's really simple. All you got to do is look over there, and that's godly. And that's what? Our republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, for us. We look on the other side, everything in the world is a continuum. It goes from right to left. There's a circle never ending. Nothing ever changes. God had it all planned. So if we look at the other side, what do we see? I've highlighted some things. So righteousness over here, law-abiding citizens, integrity, which we were talking about earlier today. And over here, what's the converse of that? Wickedness, division, uninformed, chaos, danger. So basically, these things are the black and white pictures that create a moral society versus an immoral society. Freedom versus slavery. All of these things are in your Bible. They're all virtues demonstrated by one Jesus Christ, the Son of God. All of these guys belong to who? The devil. This system has to be collapsed. Next slide. Next slide, please. All right. What I want to point out now is we're on that right side, the demonic side. Guess what? If you know politics and you went down through that list and read them all, here's what you'd find. They create the very system that we're under. They create communism. What you're looking at are the tenets of communism. So they want to impose a central bank, cha-ching. They want a government-controlled education system, ka-ching. Government-controlled labor, cha-ching. Government controls transportation and communication, i.e. the fake news maybe. Government control of agriculture, starve us to death, poison us. Control of production and food processing. Wonder why all those processing plants got burnt down. Maybe there was a reason. And confiscation of private property. When we came to this country, we had a single tax, a sales tax. The federal income tax was proven unconstitutional by 6 Supreme Court decisions. We came here to have freedom to own property. I was a real estate broker for 12 years. We were under initially a single tax and under aodial ownership, which is a Spanish land grant system that says once you pay your property off, the government can never take it. After 1933, we changed over to fee simple, and guess what? How many of you out there own a home? No, you don't. Not one of you own a home. You're a tenant of the government, and here's what they do. They cause you to lose your job. You fall behind on your mortgages. You got a $500,000 house. You got a $5,000 debt liability for back taxes. And they say, we're going to come and take your $500,000 house. We're not going to make any attempt to sell it at fair market value. We're going to take it, and we're going to see to it that one of our banker gangsters buys that $500,000 house for your $5,000 debt, period. That's the system of slavery that we're under, and I want to drive it home to you. So we're under a communist regime, and it's all because we're listening to the devil. If we go to the other side, God's kingdom is going to give us the freedom, the likes of which we had never been able to imagine. Next slide. Okay, 2 presidents. Was there ever a time in the Bible where there might have been 2 kings? Was there a David and a Saul? And did Saul come out to be the winner, or did David come out to be the winner? Is Biden the winner, or is Trump the winner? Is Biden the president, or is Trump the president? Or maybe more appropriately said, is Trump the commander-in-chief? And is there a basis for saying that? In 1933, did Roosevelt become the first president to serve 3 terms because an executive order, a national emergency was declared that said it's too dangerous of a time to bring in a new president? Isn't that what exactly Donald Trump did when he left office? Didn't he sign 7 national emergencies? And hasn't Biden, the puppet, signed and renewed every one of them? Doesn't that tell you that Trump is the commander-in-chief? He is the man chosen by God. And Kim Clements said in the fall of this year, this is something important. A lot of people have lost confidence in prophets because the prophets said, here's what's going to happen following 2020. They said we're going to have a summer of chaos. We're going to have a fall of falls and rises, and we're going to be happy by Christmas. 20 came, 21 came, 22 came, 23 came. But I spent days listening to every one of Ken Clement's prophecies from 2007 to 2016 when he died. There were nuggets that I guarantee you most of you didn't see. What he's telling us is in the fall, this relates to politics. He said, I, God, will disclose my David, who I have chosen to pray for this nation and to lead this nation. That's tied to our political time frame. And then what also did he say? There were several things, but I'm only going to give you a couple more. So we got another time marker. This is the year, 2024, the election year is the year. And he said, Donald Trump will serve 2 terms, but there'll be an interruption between. Didn't that happen? And now we're in a situation where basically this is all coming down, and we're going to see that Trump's going to come back without an election, folks. It's the groundwork is there. Politically, we're able to do it, and that's what's going to happen. Next slide. This is the system that God gave us so that when we go into the new system, this is the foundation, the American economic system, the only system in the world which had the tendency to equalize and elevate the condition of all mankind and to bring spirituality into the economic system that was to rule the world. This is what God is going to put in when this financial collapse happens. Next slide. This is the formula. So I need to tell you a little bit about my background before I go into this. When I died, God said, you're going to study all your life. The Bible, the Quran, you're going to travel over the world, you're going to have a multitude of near-death experiences, you're going to have jobs, every one of which was to teach you something, because what I'm going to give you is the ability to have so much information that you can go back hundreds or even thousands of years and tie all the pieces together, and you will be able to tell the people what seems complex in a way that is very simple. This is how Donald J. Trump answered one Barack Hussein Obama when he was asked, what are you going to do, wave a magic wand to restore America? And Trump said, yep. And this is what he did, folks. It's so darn simple, it's unbelievable. What did he do? He gave us access to our gas and oil. What did Biden do? The opposite. What did he do? He imposed tariffs on China. And is that what we did when we became the wealthiest nation in the world? You bet your bippy it is. What did he do? He gave tax cuts so all the billions of dollars that were offshore could be brought in so that we could do what? So that we could rebuild our infrastructure, so that we could rebuild factories. And what else did he do? He negotiated fair trading deals because we had been under NAFTA, which was designed to be an intentionally losing trade agreement. When Jimmy Carter and Clinton initiated that, here's what happened. We were 200 years old, and we had a whopping, huge national debt, $600 billion. And now it's what, 35 trillion? And most of that is because every time we sold something, we lost money. So Trump came in and negotiated fair trading deals, and along with the tariffs, he began to tear down the anointed China. China is going to fall. They're never going to come back as a world leader. And I now go to my experience in the Bible and my understanding of the book of Revelation. China ain't in it when we get to the combination beast. They're going down. They're not coming back. I could talk for an hour on just that one subject. And so basically, that's the formula. And now in the next slide, I think it's the next slide, we're going to see why only America is in a position to restore the world from the chaos that we're about to go into. Next slide. This is the bigger formula. If you can't check every one of those boxes, you will not be able to restore order and peace to the world. This is America. So let's run down those. I'm going to show you one by one. We're the only nation that can do what must be done. We're God's chosen nation, and Trump is the chosen leader of this nation. So we have to have a free society. It means it can't be communism. We have to have technology. We have to be a technological leader. Well, who invented the Industrial Revolution? America. Who invented the computer? America. Who invented all the technology of any consequences? America. Who, according to a very private agreement, is in control of the most amazing nanotechnology in the world that's going to allow us to basically have a revolution in new technology? America. Who has the greatest global reach? You can't have stability if you don't have the ability to control the seas and to police the world. So we have that, and we have military dominance, natural resources, manufacturing, trade, and even down to the geography of where we're at. If you're up on the Arctic Circle, not very productive. If you're in the equatorial zone, not very productive. But if you're in the 40th latitude, the grain belt of the world, the place where the temperature is temperate, you're positioned to be a leader. And lastly, global language. You can't be a leader unless you have One, no more than 2 languages. So now I'm going to run through real quick why no other nation in the world feels this except us. Russia, lots and lots of oil, not much technology, communist nation. China, falling, never going to come back. Iran, hadn't got a prayer. Most powerful nation in South America, Brazil, holds a huge 6% of the global trade. Can't pull it off. There's Australia, too small. Not another nation in the world that can check even half of those boxes. America is God's anointed nation. We are God's anointed people. Our freedom is at the door. All we have to do is stand up and say, we will no longer participate. We are no longer slaves. We're no longer sheep. We are people who are demanding our freedom. Just break the system. Just refuse to participate. We're almost done. I don't know if I ran over or not. Nobody yelled at me. Go ahead, next slide. All right, I put this together because I want you to see it's so frickin' simple, it's not even funny. Everything was a continuum. So if we look over here and we say democracy, well, what is that? Well, that's bad because that's communism. So what's the opposite? A republic, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. All we have to do is understand that everything in God's kingdom is black and white. It's one end of the continuum or the other. So let's just pick out a couple of others. Globalism. What's the opposite of that? The good part, deglobalization. Fiat currency, contrapose that with what? God's economic system, on down the list. That's why I encourage you to take pictures. This is how simple it is, folks. We've got their playbook. We know how they control us. And we know how simple, hopefully with this slide, it is. All we have to do is just choose the column that has the goodies in it, that makes us a sovereign nation, that makes us a republic, and all the rest of this goes away. We've got the power. God gave it to us. He's telling us the truth, and the truth is going to set us free. I think there's only 1 or 2 more slides, so bear with me. Next. Next. I think there's another 1 or 2. Okay, well, there was supposed to be my QR code for my book, so I'm going to do a little publicity. Oh, there it is. All right, so I'm going to tell you real quick. Here's what God did to me. He says, you're going to study all your life. He allowed me to release this book. This book takes you through history. History of the Bible, history of the world, just stopping at major tipping points so that you can understand what they did to us, why they did to it, and what the outcome is. It's called Liberty Crusade, the fight to save the free world. Now, as soon as this financial collapse happens, I've got a second book ordained by God, parked. It's called Liberty Crusade, Restored Republic. It's going to give you the entire plan for how we restore a republic and keep it. You've only seen just the tip of the iceberg. And then, once people have woken up, he's given me a third book, and that third book is in editing right now, and it is Liberty Crusade, putting the power back in the Bible. It's going to take you through how the people who killed Christ have taken our Bible and turned it into a worthless piece of garbage, and how we can recognize that they only changed 5 simple things. And if we know what they are, we can put the power back in the Bible. It will no longer be the lukewarm church. It will no longer be the lukewarm Bible. We will be Spirit-filled, Holy-Spirit people who will believe in God, who will believe in signs, wonders, and miracles, and will be ready to have that vibrational increase into the 4th and 5th dimension. So with that, folks, thank you very much.
There we go. Sorry about that. Left myself on mute. That's how you know this is live. But what a great presentation that was by Larry Ballard. He is, I'd like to say, quite the blessed intellect. As you've heard Larry Ballard emphasize self-sovereignty and sees XRP and Ripple as central to the new financial system. Larry also advocates taking control of your life and finances. And if this resonates with you, or if you resonate with Larry's views and mine personally, leave a comment below. And I recommend buying Larry's book, Liberty Crusade, which can be purchased on his website, larryballard.com. I have it up on the screen right now. Also, I'd like to thank the team at Merlin for sponsoring today's live stream. Thank you very much. Merlin, they're developing a groundbreaking, I'd like to say, a super app offering leading exit strategies and tax tools for every crypto investor globally, or actually, I think to start off here in the US and Canada, excuse me. Their real-time market insights are invaluable, making them a future one-stop shop for crypto enthusiasts like myself and many of you tuning in right now at this time. Big thanks to Merlin for sponsoring today's live stream event. Love you mucho. And then friendly reminder, next week on Friday, June 21st at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be having Linda P. Jones Linda P. Jones will make an appearance on my channel. I'll be sure to put out a placeholder over the weekend. We're going to be covering some, I'd say, very interesting topics, maybe even a back of the napkin calculation if we are lucky. So Linda is a gem, and I look forward to chatting her up with all of you on an interactive live stream next Friday. So be ready. Bring your questions. Let's have some fun. But remember, Linda may be a Wall Street veteran, and I may be an accredited investor who just recently came out of the finance industry. However, none of this is financial advice. And if you enjoyed today's content, please make sure you smash the like button and subscribe button. Drop any questions or updates you may have for me in the comments below, and I'll be sure to respond to them ASAP. But I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Happy Friday, and hope you have an even better weekend with your loved ones. Thanks again for tuning in. Love you mucho.